be creative? Good morning. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. What do you think I'm going to say after good morning? All right, take care of it. Yeah, I was just going to give you Lane. Okay, today you are going to be using inspiration not from your own lives. When we talked about memoir, we had to get inspiration from our own experiences. Today you are going to get inspiration from an author. Today you are going to be inspired by the book, The Mysteries of Harris Burdick. Okay, so in this book, there are not stories. There are only pictures. Pictures with titles and captions. There have been many, many people over the years who have taken a picture from this book and it has inspired a story for them. Do you know who Stephen King is? He actually wrote a story about one of your options, one of your pictures, and I will share that with you after we do some planning. I've seen people use this as the and the middle. And then someone over here, Suzanne, wants to use this towards the end. If it makes it confusing, we can always fix it.
Okay. Yeah.
Who do you basically want it to be? I mean, you can tell from the narrator.
Yeah, I was into narrator or like someone that's seeing something they seem like not.
So omniscient?
Yeah.
Omniscient area.
Yeah.
Getting beyond the simple exchanges, and this is kind of a school-wide thing. I said this, I said this, I said this, I said this. So how do we turn that into an actual conversation amongst writers versus students? And I think if we start doing that as a school, then we're talking about the accountable talk, we're talking about being able to communicate using the language. If we're not so focused on this is what I have to say, but really interacting with the students or interacting with the peers, then I think that adds a little bit of strength to what they're doing. So that was one of my questions. Yeah.
So do you think having maybe, well, I guess sentence starters might help, but something where they're writing their questions down after they talk and then having them talk again, would that work?
I don't know. I think just modeling it. I think,
Okay.
Having 3 adults saying, this is something I wrote, so I spent 5 minutes writing it. And then how do we interact? You don't just tell me and then I say.
One of the things I was thinking is during the share out piece is would maybe instead of having them raise their hand, I loved how you gave them a chance to decide who was going to go, because I think that offered the kids a chance of choice, and they could say, the kids that I saw the ones say, no, you're going to go, yours is better, and you talk about that, which I thought was powerful for them to be in that group.
And I agree, because before spring break, I was having them just jump into the conversation. So whatever the quote was that we were analyzing, I wanted them to think about it. And then when somebody was done talking, the next person would just jump in.
How did that work?
Good for a while, and then we had
Right.
a break, and then I just never picked it back up.
I think if it stayed structure, if they had their accountable talk stems and they have them on the table, and that was the expectation, that we're going to use these, and you don't have to use them exactly as they're written, but asking them which ones here, where's a clarification stem that you might use in case you don't understand. And they could put stars next to ones just to have as a backup for them if they needed it.
Draw this because, he's holding a chair and he's angry. All right, well, what about that inspired you? Like making more of a personal connection to why they chose what they chose versus I just like that picture. And it might not have been part of the lesson, but since in the warm-up you had defined inspiration, you talked about what that was. I was just curious if there was going to be more.
And we did come back to that at the end, but I think I need to touch on that again. And for some of them, they get the inspiration.
Right.
I think depending on the level of the student, since it is such a wide range.
Right, you have 6th and 8th. And I think just
It was really of a reflection on my class as well, because this is something I've been working on, is how do I make this group discussion more relevant for the kids? Because, they get it. I agree, and I'd like to add, and then I agree. What do you agree with? What do you agree with? Don't make this so sterile. I want you to have a natural conversation. So one of the things that I love that you were doing was give, like I said before, you gave them the opportunity to share, to decide who was going to share out. And it was interesting that even some of the 6th graders were the ones that were chosen.
I also like how whenever someone's not engaged, if it's even a couple of seconds, you always just say, figure out how to be successful. Instead of like, come on, pick up your pencil, which is what I do. You kind of put it on them, which is pushing students to like, okay, what do I need to do to get this going?
As far as pushing students, I think the one thing that you do really well to push higher level thinking is just giving them that wait time. You don't feed them answers. You're always just, you sit back and you just let them figure it out. You let them write about it, you let them talk to each other, you let them figure it out on their own. So I think that's really great. I also thought your graphic organizer was really, really well thought out and organized. The kids knew exactly what to do, where to put what. They knew what you wanted of them. They knew the goal of your lesson. And I also thought it was cool because you gave them a lot of choice here. 3 to 5 paragraphs you set up here, and then you also let them choose their own game.
I do. I think sometimes
but
it
I
is
don't do that same thing.
So in the beginning, I was really apprehensive, nervous, because I came from a school district where we collaborated, but we didn't go in each other's classrooms. So having peers come in unannounced, watching you, seemed very stressful. It's already stressful enough when you have your administrators coming in a few times a year. So I was a little worried. My first takeaway after the first observation was that they told me I was way too hard on myself. So I needed to hear that. And then I had little things to work on after that. And so each time they came in, those were the things I was focusing on. And my teaching got better. And I was looking forward to people coming in this last time. Just because I knew it was going to help me. And now I have some takeaways for the end of the year and lots of ideas for next year. And so I'm excited to see, because this is my first year. The school is on the second year. So I want to know what I'm going to look like after doing this for a few years. This is my first time teaching like 6 through 8. It's nice to go into an 8th grade classroom and see that Mike is using the same language for essays that I am. So it gives me some reassurance that I'm on the right track.
My name is Michael Carlson. I'm the assistant principal at El Dorado Elementary in Douglas County. Previously, I was an instructional coach at Sheridan Middle School. So when we started exploring at El Dorado what peer observation might look like, we decided that Sheridan could really provide a place for us to see it in action and get a feel for whether it might work for us. I was blown away by how open to feedback all of the faculty seemed to be, and how people would just sit down together and be very straightforward about what they had noticed in other people's classrooms, about what they wanted to notice within their own classrooms, and what they were taking from other people's classrooms. And I related that back to when I was a 3rd grade teacher. And my greatest feedback that I always received was from my teammate. So my 3rd grade teammate and I, when I was a classroom teacher, taught right next door to each other, and we could pop into each other's classrooms and provide feedback. So if she was trying something with centers, she would ask me what I believed that looked like. And if I was trying something with a new science lesson, I might get her feedback because that wasn't an area where I felt all that comfortable. So for me, that was really my foundation as a classroom teacher, just that I was able to benefit so much from somebody else who was in my field, honing her craft in the same way that I was honing mine. I think that there's an element of comfort and familiarity with people who are sort of in the trenches with you. They understand what you're going through, what it's actually like to have 25 students in front of you, and to be responsible for teaching different subjects at different times. Just that familiarity with this is who we are, this is what we do. We want to improve our craft, and we're going to do that together through providing feedback.